On the Umpqua-Rogue Divide, there is an area known as the Huckleberry Special Interest Area, and it is a culturally significant area for our tribe. And the fires of 2017 and 2018 burned through that special interest area and affected some of the areas where tribal members go and gather. And through a partnership with the Rogue River Siskiyou National Forest and the Umpqua National Forest, they came to us and said, hey, we'd really like to partner with you to go up and replant that burned area. We know it's significant for you all. We were hoping you'd like to join us on this. Because they had the conversation with us early, we were able to be a project partner on that. We were able to be a part of the grant that they applied for to get the funding to do it. And as a result, we were able to replant over 11,000 huckleberry plants on the Rogue Umpqua Divide.
At its heart, tribal consultation honors the sovereignty of the 9 federally recognized tribes of Oregon. Tribal sovereignty is the inherent authority of tribal nations to govern themselves and make decisions about issues that impact their lands and communities. Sovereignty also means tribal nations have an innate right to preserve their cultures, traditions, and ways of life in harmony with the land.
For sovereignty in our tribal nation, we are just that. We're nations within nations. We're small nations that have rights that were not given to us, not returned, but were inalienable rights that came from the ancestors, from Creator, from being on these lands for thousands of years and stewarding these places. We were able to be recognized by the federal government as one of the 9 federally recognized tribes due to our unique culture surviving and thriving.
And so we've grown by exercising our sovereignty. We can tax, we can make laws, we have our own tribal court. And so those are near and dear to us.
Tribal sovereignty, very important for Indigenous people of North America or wherever you're from. Very important to be able to express yourself, to be able to speak your language, to carry on with your traditions and your culture, to worship as you were meant to, as Creator had imparted that to the people. Important to serve one another and to take care of one another. That's, I believe, the importance.
Tribal consultation, sometimes called government to government, is a process that recognizes the sovereignty of the 9 federally recognized tribes of Oregon. This process takes place by engaging the tribes in meaningful dialogue before making decisions that may affect their interests, resources, or rights. More than coordination, consultation requires early and frequent outreach with tribal leaders. Consultation requires humility and respect for sovereign tribal nations. It involves researching and learning about tribes and building ongoing relationships with tribal leaders. It also requires this process to begin before a plan has been developed. Meaningful consultation entails striving for the co-designing of plans with tribes and honoring tribal expertise and knowledge of the land. In 2023, I added the role of Tribal Affairs Director to my office, an historic moment for the state's efforts to foster meaningful collaboration with the state's tribal nations.
Big C consultation means government consultation, and that's where the top state officials will meet directly with our tribal council. And so that's for government relationships. That's when you're meeting with Big C consultation, you're meeting with our tribal council. You're not meeting with me or meeting with staff. That's the small C consultations.
And so for us, it's making sure it's not just a checkbox, it's a meaningful consultation. And it's not to looking as how the tribes might slow us down, but how the tribes might help us, because we have very much to offer in that consultation.
Consultation is really a formal discussion. That is decision makers meeting with the Tribal Council that is really coming to the table in the very beginning too, in talking about ideas. But you can't make decisions, formal decisions, without the decision makers talking to the decision makers of Oregon's tribal nations. Don't put a policy in front of me that's already written.
In 2001, the Oregon State Legislature established a framework for communication between state agencies and the 9 federally recognized tribes of Oregon. This made Oregon one of the first states in the nation to require state agencies to make a reasonable effort to cooperate with tribes. Tribal sovereignty is also protected by a series of federal laws and treaties recognizing tribes' rights to live and thrive on their established lands. It is important to note that through the Supremacy Clause in the United States Constitution, these laws and treaties take precedence over state and local decisions. This means that in Oregon, honoring tribal sovereignty through government-to-government consultation is a legal obligation under both federal and state law.
Our ancestors, including my 3 times great-grandfather, signed a treaty that guaranteed us the right to live well on the reservation lands that we retained in exchange for much of Oregon and a large chunk of Northern California. So tribal consultation means, first of all, recognizing that the Klamath tribes are a sovereign nation, that we predate the United States, that we have signed a treaty with the United States, and so government-to-government consultation is the proper way to interact with us about important things.
But in Oregon, we're lucky that those relationships are fostered by the Legislative Commission on Indian Services, which was established under Oregon statute, and by successive governors who have would listen to us.
The 9 federally recognized tribes in Oregon are unique entities with their own perspectives, cultures, and ways of life. If an initiative or proposal may impact multiple tribes, all affected tribes must be consulted equally. One tribe cannot speak on behalf of another. Although we recognize and honor the differences between the tribes, it's important to remember that the legal requirement for engaging tribes in consultation are the same. If an action your agency is considering may impact one or more of the 9 federally recognized tribes of Oregon, you must first reach out to the appropriate leaders of all affected tribes. These leaders must be in a position of authority to engage in consultation. It's important to be patient and work with the tribe's timeline. Tribal government leaders are often unpaid elected officials with competing professions and responsibilities. It's important to schedule a meeting with tribal leaders and plan future meetings as necessary. Consultation will require an ongoing conversation with involved tribes in every step of the process.
Consultation is an opportunity also for state agency representatives to learn more about the tribes. And so really starting from the ground, they need to learn about us and not just depend on us to tell them who we are and what's important to us. And so really doing their homework and maybe reading some books that we have published would be helpful, learning about our history, our culture, and not being afraid to come here to the Umatilla Indian Reservation and learn about us and really get to know us is important.
And what works and is right for Burns Paiute tribe in Eastern Oregon may not work for the other tribes. And it's important for the state agencies to understand that, because a lot of times they try to give us a template agreement, give us a template response, and tribal sovereignty helps us mitigate that through defining who we are and what best works for the Burns Paiute tribe.
Finally, consultation recognizes that tribes steward their land for the benefit of everyone, not just tribal members. Members of tribal nations face the same challenges the state of Oregon tackles every day: access to safe and stable housing, safe, responsive schools for our youth, and equitable access to health care and behavioral health needs. The work Oregon state agencies do across the enterprise impacts tribal nations. As traditional ecological knowledge bearers, tribal communities understand the long history of their land's ecosystem.
This insight allows tribes to implement innovative and sustainable approaches to land management and conservation. Consultation is an opportunity to leverage tribes' unique knowledge of their lands so that we can all enjoy the terrain of our beautiful state.
We've shown that our interests as a tribe are the same interests that the state of Oregon has. It's just that we are compelled to protect our future and our tribal members and to raise happy, healthy individuals.
Everybody needs our environment and our land and our water healthy. We all need this. This is just one more opportunity for my sons to sit at the table and say, I know this about my river, I know what's happening, and I want to tell you about this thing. And people are going to listen. That's one of the great examples of meaningful consultation.
The tribe looks 7 generations ahead for what we do with everything, especially our land management. And most of the work that we do in natural resources, I won't get to see the results of that within my lifetime. But maybe my children, my grandchildren, my grandchildren's grandchildren will get to see those benefits. So that's how we plan.
Tribal consultation is an opportunity to build relationships, learn from traditional knowledge keepers, and create meaningful policies and initiatives that enhance life for both tribal and non-tribal communities alike. If you or your office are required to enter into consultation, there are resources to support you. This video series offers a look at the significance of consultation from the perspective of the 9 federally recognized tribes of Oregon themselves.
We've seen a number of activities that we work cooperatively with state agencies to restore resources and accomplish the goals for both the agencies and the C2IR, such as working with Bonneville Power Administration, Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife on our salmon restoration efforts in the Umatilla River and in other basins. The accomplishment of restoration of salmon to the Umatilla River after 70 years of extirpation is a great example of how we can work with our federal and state partners to get these resources protected. But if the agencies, the state and federal agencies, weren't willing to consult with the tribes or contact us and work directly with us, successful projects like that wouldn't be possible.
A benefit from the consultations through Oregon Department of Education is that any tribal member of the 9 tribes of Oregon can attend a college in Oregon with a tuition scholarship. What that does for tribal members is we're at a time where we know and understand, not only do we have to understand our traditional values and our identity of who we are, but we also need to learn how to consult with agencies and the English language that they rule under.
These sovereign tribal nations are our neighbors, partners, and friends. They have much to teach us about stewarding this land we now call Oregon. I invite you to approach this legal requirement for tribal consultation with an open heart and a humble spirit. Though the journey ahead may seem daunting, it is up to all of us to build the bonds of trust between our state and tribal governments.
So whatever is being recorded here, I hope that my younger people are listening. This is our position. It doesn't matter what tribe you're talking to, but this is our position as to who we are, have been, and will continue to be. And we'll carry on our teachings long after we're gone.